When doing Part A, Part 1, we had to drop blood from different levels. We started from 15 centimeters and went all the way up to 150 centimeters. Now the measurements across was 15 centimeters was 15 millimeters, 30 centimeters was 16 millimeters, 45 was 20 millimeters, 60 centimeters was 18 millimeters, 75 was 22 millimeters, 100 was also 22 millimeters, and 150 was 28 millimeters. We realized as the impact got higher, so the blood stain splattered out bigger. Now for Part A, Part 2, we had to do drops from 30 centimeters, but each time we moved to a different drop, we would have to add one drop more than the last drop. So for example, number 1, we just had one drop. Then for 2, we had 2 drops, 3, we had 3 drops, and 4, we had 4 drops. Now 4 had the greatest and biggest drop because there was the most drops on there. Next, also, we had to spill 10 millimeters of blood onto a note card. Now the spill, as you can see, is fairly large because there was a lot of blood. For Part B, for the walking drip pattern, we realized that the first step was really bloody, but then as soon as you start to take more steps, the blood begins to slowly not be as bad as the first one. Now for the wipe, we simply had to take an object and push it towards the back paper to create a wipe effect. Next, we had to swipe something, in which we took a paper towel, placed a small quantity of blood on the paper, and smeared it around, making it like a swipe stain. Next, we had to create a transfer stain, in which we took a hammer, we placed small quantities of blood on the paper, and we took a hammer and we hammered down onto the blood, creating a big splash effect. Next, we had to do a vertical arterial spurt, in which we walked along the paper and dripped bloods like a beating heart effect to see the vertical angle of blood being dropped. Next, we did the arterial spurts horizontal, in which we were parallel to the floor, and we squeezed several spurts off in a simultaneous beating of a heart to make it seem like how blood would be spurted off from the floor. Lastly, we had to do a cast off spatter, in which we were horizontal, in which we used a slashing method with a knife to make it look, and we went back and forth with it. For Part C, we took many different bloods and we dropped a couple drops of blood onto different surfaces, such as a note card, computer paper, cardboard, paper bag, and a plastic bag. We realized with the note card and the computer paper, it just kind of soaked right on in a little bit. With the paper bag, it splurted a little bit more. With the plastic bag, it kind of all formed together into little puddles of blood. It wasn't spurted out. And with the computer paper, it splurted out more than the note card, and the cardboard also, it didn't really splurt out that much. It was really little. For Part D, we had to take an impact angle apparatus, and each time we went higher and higher up in degrees. So the first degree that we had to do was at 10 degrees, then we went to 20, and then we went to 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, all the way up to 80. Now we realized that the higher, the lower the degree, the more likely that it's going to drip down. But the higher the degree, more likely it's not going to drip down. It's just going to kind of spurt. So 10 was the one that really dripped down the note card. 20 and 30 did that too. But then it started to get where we got to 40, all the way up. 40 dropped a little bit. 50 dropped a little bit, but then 60 and 70 really just kind of clumbled up into a little puddle. It didn't drip down the paper as much. Now for part E, we apparently forgot to take pictures, but we had to place our hand and we had to place blood on it, and we splashed our hand with blood and we put it onto the piece of paper that was taped to the door. When it was on a 90-degree angle, it just splurted right there. When we put it then on an angle, like our hand on a 50-degree angle, and we splattered it down, the blood driplets dripped down. Then we had to use the toothbrush, and we kind of realized that that created a very light effect to the blood.